What if Ninetales had Drought and Generation 3 overuse? Now, this is a different video I've made, and this is, again, one that's out of my control. After dealing with the Megastones in the Sinnoh region yesterday with Mega Garchomp, there was reports that some Ninetales in the Hoenn region have gotten the Drought ability, which some people may freak out about. Because for those of you who don't know, in Generation 3, the best Pokemon by far is Tyranitar. And one of the defining traits of Tyranitar was the fact that he got his new ability, Sandstream. So, permanent Sandstorm the entire time. And there wasn't very much you could really do about it. That's kind of why it's also the only generation, at least as far as I know, where standard weather moves like Sunny Day and Rain Dance were also pretty good. But obviously, so much would change if there was another Pokemon that could summon the weather. So how good would Ninetales be? Very good question. Now, there's a lot to go over here. And I will say this right now. Obviously, Ninetales would in fact be overused. There's no doubt about it. Because this is already a generation where Pokemon like Moltres and Charizard are overused. And that's because of just how the meta is suited towards them. Spikes are everywhere, and Dugtrio is everywhere, and both of them have immunity to both of those. So having a Pokemon that can passively summon the weather, get rid of Tyranitar's sand, and allow them to power up their Fire Blast? Yeah, that's a big deal. Now, just because they summon the weather doesn't mean that there's no struggles. Abomasnow could summon weather in Generation 4, and it still was borderline. So it needs to be able to have tools outside of just that. Gen 5 is another example, where it does get Drought, but it still kind of got outclassed by both Politoed and Tyranitar. And you also have, for the most part, modern gens, where Charizard Y was a better Sunsetter in Generation 6, and Torkoal is just a better Sunsetter now. Is Ninetales even in Gen 9? I bet you it probably is, but because of Torkoal's existence, you won't even see it. That's kind of sad, but here in Generation 3, Ninetales has a much better chance. And, which I'm pretty usable moveset. Obviously, Fire Blast is a must-have, but some other stuff that's pretty nice. Hypnosis could be interesting. You have Substitute, Will-O-Wisp. And I know that other generations ignored Sword Beam, but Gen 3 is not one of them, which is really sad. You really wish you could have that coverage. It would be really good if in permanent weather you can just use Sword Beam anytime. But since you don't, at least the moves that I personally would prefer would be Fire Blast, Hidden Power Grass. You can go with Ice if you want. It can also help you better against the Dragon types, but I do think you would rather have a quad super effective move against Swampert. But it's up to you. The last two will be Will-O-Wisp and Substitute. This is have to be what you would go for. This is what I personally liked, because you could give it more attack, or special attack I mean. That isn't the worst thing in the world. And one thing I can definitely understand is if you would rather give it more speed, because it would allow you to, worst case scenario, have a speed tie with Pokemon like Flygon. But I, for the most part, don't think it's really worth it, if I'm being honest. You can agree to disagree with me all you want. But, actually no, I can definitely see that. But against the Dragons, you would probably just better switch out anyways, because other than Will-O-Wisp, you won't really have a way to hurt them unless you have Hidden Power Ice. But if you do have Hidden Power Ice, then obviously go for max speed. There's probably other things you can use too if you want to go full offensive. I mean, I'm not seeing. I guess there's Feint Attack if you want a really bad coverage. And yeah, I'm not seeing much else. But still, I still think this moveset is fine. And for items, Leftovers is probably the best, because you're not trying to do a sweep. Ninetales is mostly just, if it can kill something with Fire Blast, it's gonna go for it. But if not, just burn whatever's in front of you and hide behind a substitute. That alone's already pretty good. And I think having max special defense can help you with that. Especially since outside of the rock and ground types, which you just auto-boost to anyways, one of your other main issues is water types. But having both the sun out and having max special defense can go a long way in helping you there. So I don't think I have as much to say. Not as much like yesterday with Garchomp. So I think it's just time to get onto the replays, shall we? We got 20 of them, so this is going to take a while. Starting off with the boy Tyranitar. Now, luckily or unluckily, Ninetales is faster. So it's pretty bad for the weather because Tyranitar Sandstorm would always come out on top. But it's also good because it means you can at least get a burn off, which maybe is less good if they have Lumberry, but you're not going to start out with his Ninetales anyways. I think there's just too much of a threat there for like Dugtrio or just Tyranitar lead. So you probably won't be having to face Tyranitar too much anyways, and if Tyranitar gets a Dragon up, you're going to lose anyways. But it's a bad matchup, no doubt about it. But being faster and being able to like threaten it with a burn is still pretty good. It's not like Ninetales is defenseless. It can still contribute something even if it loses the Weather War. And then next off, we have Skarmory, the second best Pokemon. And yeah, I think we know how Skarmory was doing pretty good. It's been pretty popular lately. Some say it might even be more popular than Tyranitar. But that probably wouldn't be the case if Ninetales was here. And that was how many? That was 4 Fire Blasts that missed in a row. That is pretty unbased. But yeah, this is the best case scenario for Skarmory. Obviously, our Fire Blast murders it. I don't think anyone is shocked by that. Going over the maybe third best Pokemon, Blissey. Outside of Skarmory and Tyranitar, I actually don't know how the rankings are. All I know is that Skarmory is pretty good, and Substitute is really good at stalling out Blissey. And obviously, Ice Beam can't do a lot of damage. Seismic Toss probably can. So if it has Seismic Toss, it probably does significantly better. But yeah, Skarmory doesn't work too well against Ninetales. And then there's just this. I'm just gonna put on fast right now. This is a very inaccurate replay because you're not gonna just have 2 Pokemon, even if you burn Blissey right now, but then it switches to something else. So in reality, I don't know if that makes it better or worse because yeah, Blissey can just keep getting off the burn, but on the other hand, it also means that Ninetales gets more free turns. It can either burn something or hit it with a powerful Fire Blast, or it's a water type or ground type and you're hitting a super effective hidden power. I actually don't think it might be enough to take out Dugtrio. If I had to guess, it's probably not enough to kill Dugtrio, at least talking about the defensive set. But then again, that also gives you a chance to burn it. And if you burn Dugtrio, then it becomes way less useful, doesn't it? So I think I'll just put this matchup in could go either way. But it's a weird one. Definitely a weird one where they're both stalling each other. And not much really gets done, if I'm being honest here. Although, if you just have Fire Blast as your main attacking move, Blissey can absolutely stall that out. So maybe that's not very good. So I guess technically Blissey is the better Pokemon here, or wins the 1v1. But yeah, these two aren't going to stand on each other in the first place. So it doesn't really matter. Okay, and next up, we got Aerodactyl, and this is. Yeah. That's it. There's not much else to go over. He's just faster, and you die. It doesn't matter how much speed you invest into it, you just die. There's no choice scarf. And then Celebi. I'm pretty sure I played this wrong. I actually don't know how Celebi works in Generation 3. And definitely missing the Fire Blast was really detrimental. But I guess theoretically, with Recover and Calm Mind, Celebi can outstall the Ninetales. But then again, this is also a defensive Ninetales with not much special attack investment. So maybe this isn't accurate at all, and I think I might just be dumb. Or not dumb, I just don't know how Sobi works. I didn't really know how Sobi worked in yesterday's video as well. So that's why I sort of just let it kill Garchomp with a hidden power and just called it a day. I get overwhelmed when there's a lot of stuff I don't know. And Sobi is one of those. All I know is that a lot of Pokemon like Dugtrio, Tyranitar, and Flygon use hidden power bug to take it out. Which, on one hand, that is actually kind of cool that even though bug type is not very good, at least in Generation 3, it's a legitimately good offensive type. You don't really see that often. You just really see like just U-turn, and you don't even care what type it actually is, like, you know, going against. So that's interesting. Like hidden power bug is probably the best one in this gen, at least for the physical Pokemon. I'm assuming for special, it's always going to be hidden power ice. But I don't have much else to say for this matchup. I'm pretty sure this is inaccurate and Ninetales probably just is a much better matchup. And even if like Sobi can theoretically win the 1v1, it probably doesn't risk it, I would imagine. But what do I know? And then against Charizard, I might have been doing this wrong. It probably would have been better to go for like a Dragon Claw or something. But I couldn't resist it, and it was a lot of fun just having these two fight each other with Fire Blast. Just two fire types just duking it out. It was a lot of fun to record this. And also, I'm just going to say this right now. The actual matchup probably doesn't matter. You probably wouldn't actually have these two fight each other. Even if you did, you would probably have like Charizard tech a ground move, like Earthquake or something, just to win the 1v1. But what's more interesting is these two working together. Once Tyranitar and Dugtrio are out, you have a Charizard and Permanent Sun that can nuke everything with Fire Blast. That's so fun. It's why I love Charizard Y so much, or why I just love Sun teams in general. Even if it's resisted, you don't really want to take that. And I do think that it would end up being a huge threat. And it does lead to, you know, you having Ninetales in your team, and of itself sort of being a one-con. And then against Claydol, another Pokemon I did not know how to work with, did not know what its good movesets are. But on the bright side, at least you can burn it, which I'm assuming is good. Maybe? All I know is there's also another one where you really wish you had Solar Beam instead of Hidden Power Grass. Because Hidden Power Grass just doesn't hit as hard as you want it to. It really doesn't. So I'm actually pretty sure Fire Blast does indeed do more damage there. But you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. And then next off, we have Cloyster. And this is probably the one that like surprised me the most. Because Surf does not break the substitute. This is with max special defense and HP. But in spite of that, Hidden Power still does a lot of freaking damage. I'm actually not sure how much Fire Blast would have done there. Does anyone know if it would have done more? You guys probably know. You guys are pretty good when it comes to getting the calcs. And then we have Flygon, and this is the second replay I made, because the first one Flygon outsped, because they have the exact same speed. So for this replay in particular, I got rid of all the special defense investment, and gave Ninetales full speed, which means that in the best case scenario, it wins the speed tie, doesn't miss Will-O-Wisp, and gets murdered anyways. But hey, you burned the Flygon, so maybe good. You don't mess with it. And then Gengar, yet another Pokemon that I just don't know how to really use. I only know how to use it in Generation 1, where it has like, you know, it mostly just puts stuff to sleep and it explodes, so the rest of its coverage doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna assume this one's just quickly in the way, and that's gonna call it a day. Forgive me for not being the Gengar expert. And as for the Gyarados matchup, if it doesn't get Dragon Dance off, like Gyarados obviously really doesn't like having to deal with the burn, which that's nice, but you don't really have a way to damage it, so it can just get off a Dragon Dance anyways. Although you wouldn't really stay in after you burn it, you would probably switch out. So maybe this is like technically a good-ish matchup, just because in execution, you just burning it is just a good enough threat on its own, and you're just going to switch out. So it's probably the best matchup you have against the water types. Or not counting Cloyster, it may be Swampert, but I don't know. And and this is so many Pokemon. I'm not even sure if Jolteon's even popular. Is Jolteon popular? I'd be surprised if it is. Why would you use Jolteon over Zapdos? Is there really anything it has against over Zapdos? But either way, Ninetales has a good matchup against it, which is pretty good. Like, you're not going to complain. This one is not so fortunate, however. Even in the sun, my Milotic does a lot of damage and it can just break those subs. And missing Lobos doesn't help either. But even if you did get it off, my Milotic has Marvel skill, so it just boosts its defense, which makes it even more annoying. But this might be the worst matchup against all of the water types it has. I would say this is probably even worse or maybe not worse than Suicune. Suicune matchup is also just miserable, which you will see in a little bit. And that's how much hidden power does. Not good. Not good at all. And then against Moltres, you would think this would be like the Charizard matchup, but somehow it's even more one-sided. I don't think it's necessary because Moltres has more special attack. Because normal Charizard can already break the sub. What hurts is not only does Moltres have pressure, meaning that your 8 power points of Fire Blast are going to go down really quickly, but to make it even worse, Moltres has Morning Sun, and you passively summon the sun. So, in some ways, Moltres is like the perfect counter to Ninetales, but also the perfect partner as well, because Charizard, Moltres, it doesn't really matter which one you use, they're both going to nuke stuff in the sun, but Moltres is way more powerful. And again, the Morning Sun means that he heals even more. So, that might mean that actually... Or no, I think Charizard would still be overused. Because even though it isn't as useful in the sun, because it doesn't hit as hard and doesn't have a healing move, at the very least, it still has more physical coverage. So yeah, they would both still be good. I don't think you can use all 3 of them. I think that's just begging you to get killed by Tyranitar or something else. But... it would be fun. It's fun when you're just nuking stuff with Fire Blast. Less fun when you're getting outsped and one-shot by Salamence. So you don't even have the chance of burning this one like you do with Flygon. Or I guess you technically do, it's Speed Time. But again, like, this is just an example I have of just using, max speed. Because so far, when has the speed been relevant? Only for having a speed tie with Salamence and Flygon. So is it really worth investing all your points into speed just to not even win the speed tie and to just get one shot? No, it's not. Just like invest in defense, or at the very least special defense and special attack. Worst case scenario. And that was a really unfortunate miss. And Snorlax is yet another Pokemon that I just don't really know how it works. I doesn't really feel like a Pokemon that belongs in Gen 3 overuse. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. I look at it and I think, how is there like a million like borderline Pokemon in Gen 3, but this guy still OU? It doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. And then with Ninetales is Suicune. This one is miserable. Let's just put it on fast. Let's just get this over with. Or no, hyper fast. I'll be real, I'm just not a very big fan of Suicune. I think it's, not that it's a bad design, it's a great design, but it's just so boring. It's boring to go against, even more boring to play. It's like, I'm sorry if you're a big Suicune fan, but Roaring Moon in Scarlet and Violet is way better. And it's one of the few new Pokemon where it has like an overpowered like move that I actually think is relatively fair. Not that Hydroseam is like, or actually I don't know how good like Roaring Moon is lately, but I'm getting sidetracked. We have Ninetales versus Starmie, and this one isn't much better. Even if Surf didn't do that much damage, Starmie still has Recover, so it still outstalls, and Surf still does a lot of damage either way. So it's a bad matchup. No matter what way you look at it, no. A Starmie just stomps, which is sad. Very, very sad. And then we gotta wait for this to refresh. There we go. And then Swampert versus Ninetales. Should probably mention this right now. This is Swampert with max special defense investment. I'm not sure if that's popular or not, but at the very least it means that he doesn't have as much attack as he normally would. So while Hidden Power Grass is doing as much damage, the Burnt Swampert also isn't doing as much with Earthquake either. But it's still not exactly going to Ninetales' favor, as you can see. It looks like a match that goes either way, but I think this one heavily depends on how the EVs are spread. And I'm not sure what's popular, and I'm not sure what would be popular if Ninetales had Drought. So I'm just having this matchup being bad, I'm pretty sure. I'm just gonna call it a day. You guys can do the homework and tell me how the matchup truly goes. I don't know, I was so hard to click play. I might be kind of dumb. And with Zapdos, I know Baton Pass is very popular in Zapdos. So this is another one where I think the matchup is pretty inaccurate, because Zapdos doesn't just stay in and just take a Fire Blast. So yeah, this is another reason why I prefer to stay with Gen 1. Because the idea of switching in Gen 1, but it's not as important or as common as it is here. Especially in 9 and Gen where there's no Baton Pass in Gen 1. But I would still say the matchup could go either way. Because yeah, Ninetales won the 1v1, but it's still paralyzed and lost most of his health. So it's not going to do much afterwards. So here is the tier list I have. I don't feel confident with it, because there's just so much that I don't know. But I feel like this is mostly fine. At the very least, I think everything in good matchups and great is pretty accurate, as well as all the stuff in unwinnable. But everything in bad is I think I need to switch this. Moltres should probably be an unwinnable. Yeah, but everything else I am not sure about. But you guys can be the judge of that. How good do you think Ninetales would be if it had Drought and Generation 3 overuse? I wish I can go test it out more, but I still have more work to do, along with having to deal with Megastones and Sinnoh, and hidden abilities in Generation 3. There's also been reports of a Paradox Pokemon appearing in the Johto region. Someone yesterday made a joke about Mega Salmons in Gen 2 OU, and I was like, oh, that's very funny. It's not so funny anymore. So I won't get into much detail about it, but it's getting annoying. There's stuff popping out everywhere. I'm not sure what's going on. Something weird's going on, and I've been trying to look more into it. It seems like wherever strange stuff is happening, there's been paranormal activity. I'm not sure if they're connected yet, but I will find the answer. So don't go anywhere. I'm gonna fix this. Just stay tuned for more. Tell me what you think about Ninetales with Drought and Generation 3 overuse. Thank you all for watching. This is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.